because that you guys don't know about it. Everyone knows how to negotiate. Everybody encounter negotiation. But especially when you come into professional world, there's a certain way how you do a negotiation. I personally get a chance to learn about negotiation when I was in the school in the US. Most of the materials I will share with you today will be based at Harvard negotiation project at Harvard. The organizations that you're representing and communicating with the government and different stakeholders. So everywhere you need this skill. It's not a skill that, and you say like, oh, you want it only here. It is like a very broad skill that you need. And once you know the skeleton, it is easy to translate it into the way that you guys want. So, so let's discuss about it. We'll talk about stage of negotiation. There's 6 stages of negotiation from the beginning up to the end, preparation up to implementing it. And there is 7 elements that is developed at Harvard that I want to share with you that you have to see and understand where it is needed. And we talk about 3 components of negotiation. And after that, we leave the whole negotiation thing and we talk about individuals and personally, like how you manage your strong feeling, because when you are negotiating representing your company, representing your family, representing whatever you represent and come. And sometimes your personality impacts the way how you negotiate. Some people are very aggressive. Some people don't want to hear other people's thoughts. There's a lot of personality that is impacting the overall negotiation process. And it is very, very important to manage your feelings and emotions when you get in communication with other people. Because if you're, let's say, a person who gets very angry easily, and there's a negotiation, and then you get very angry, and then you punch someone, it's not only like you get in trouble, but also your organization name is also goes with you, because you are representing somebody. And it is very important to manage your feelings. So we'll talk about techniques how to do that and what is a good way of doing it. And the last one is the role of culture in negotiation, especially for you guys that comes from Africa and South America and Asia. This is a part of the world that have a very diverse community with the different cultures, and not everybody is accepting that there's different cultures. And a lot of cultures also have inferiority and superiority based on who you are, what kind of language you speak, what color did you have. So it is very important when you come into negotiation to think about like how to deal with that and what are the things you have to do. And then you're going to finish, okay? This is the steps. So the first thing, what is negotiation? Like, Negotiation is a method by which people settle their differences. From the first stage on, there is a problem. That's the reason you come to negotiate. So it's not a pleasant thing you get into it. It's just there's something that you and the other party is not agreeing. It could be a business thing. You want to try to negotiate how you will set your business, and the other parties also want to get a benefit. So it could be that kind of conflict that you're trying to manage through negotiation. It could be a problem between community to community, and you find yourself being that person who's dealing with that. It could be in a personal level, you have to negotiate your salary. It could be multiple ways, but the thing is there is something that is not agreeable there. So that means it needs a lot of patience, it needs a lot of discussions and a lot of knowledge before you get into it. There's other 2 things that come with negotiation. One is bargaining, if you heard of a lot of it. Bargaining is specifically when you're negotiating prices. So it's not, the negotiation by itself is a very broad term, and bargaining is very specific since you are only negotiating about price. You go to the market, you want to buy something, he says 50 shekel, and you want a discount, that is the bargaining you're doing. And mediation, another term is a person who is trying to help 2 parties, usually the isolated parties, to negotiate. So if you find yourself as a mediator, you don't have to take a side and say, oh, I will support this guy or I will support that guy. You have to be very much neutral and also have to have understanding of what is going on between the two parties. So your role is to facilitate. Your role is not to make a decision there because the problem is among these two parties trying to negotiate. But your role is to facilitate the meeting to go smoothly since these parties are isolated. So that is cool, and that is a definition. So let's jump into stage of negotiation. The first stage is preparation. Preparation is a very important stage, not only in negotiation, but also in many ways. If somebody is not prepared enough for something that they're doing, you can see how things are going very wrong because they don't know what they're talking about. So when you come into negotiation, there's two aspects that I want to talk about. One is internal preparation, the other one is external preparation. The internal preparation is, first of all, you have to understand what is your company or organization mission, vision is. What is you representing? Sometimes people even don't know exactly like what is the mission of their organization. In a situation like you guys that you're working with UNIDO, United Nations, it's a chain that comes from the top to the bottom. So if you don't understand what is going on from the bottom from the top to the bottom, you're probably gonna get into something or some sort of argument that is not actually meeting with the mission of the UN. Even if you are working for UNIDO, still you have to align everything with the UN mission and vision. So it requires you a lot of effort and time to sit down and to take it very seriously in order to understand what is going on. And you go down furthermore and you say like, there's a specific, we're in Kenya for instance, and you want to talk about Nairobi, a specific area. When you go to that specific project that UNIDO tries to implement through your organization, you have to understand what is going on specifically there to that area, because whatever happened to whatever applied for Nairobi is not applying to Mombasa. So you have to be very careful and prepare about like what is going on, and also who is the stakeholders. A lot of times in the development world, a lot of development practitioners are missing the part that they're not including all the stakeholders in that project. Let's talk about, for instance, some organizations try to install a clean water facility in some rural part of Asia, okay? Most of the time what happened, the company, the NGO comes and the local partners will come together and then they will set up the water, as they're not including the community who's living in that area. So the woman who's, at the end of the day, who's actually using the water. There's like a lot of people that should be included, but usually be avoided, and the things is done, and people are not really happy to use that product because they're not part of the system. They've been told that this is your problem, and we're gonna set it up there, and then we'll leave you. After a while, after 2 years, you come to that area, they never taught how to fix it, they never learned how to manage that, and it was broken and nobody's not using it, and then another organization come and then build another one next to it and leave. And this circle goes over and over again because people are not included there. People are not taught the right thing that they have to know. Instead of like installing the other one, for instance, you can teach people how to fix that water pump. And that can make a difference in the development than you are installing the new one. So it is very important to understand the stakeholders, their needs, what they want, and to include them in this negotiation process when you are doing any project. And usually these people are avoided, these low people are avoided, and that is the final outcome that we need. So that is one thing that you have to prepare about. The other thing you have to prepare about is what is the other people thinking? What is the other parties thinking? You're going to negotiate with the other party, so you have to learn. You don't have to know 100% what is going on with that person because it's impossible to know unless you meet these people. But you have to sit down and think about that specific problem and then what could be their problem, what could be their response. You have to sit down and learn and write down a document to help you to understand what they say. This two preparation you do, and the other last preparation after you do this is, of course, you have to set up a time where to meet, who will gonna be the person who's representing each company or organization, and when the time is. And this is the last stage of preparation. But we're not still starting negotiating. This is like a very, very early stage. A lot of time people come to negotiate and they're so like, let's do it, and then they do it in the same time, and they argue, and then things go a different way. But this stage is very important to follow because it makes the situation easy and the outcome to be more productive than the cases that I discussed a while ago, which goes like really useless. As like, it's not about the picture you're taking, like you finish something and then you take a picture. It's more about how much these people are benefited from your project and how long. That is what it matters in the work. The second stage is a discussion. So what does that mean by a discussion here? It's not still a negotiation stage, but in here, what you need is basically, I have my own idea when I come to negotiation table, what I understand the problem is, that you don't know exactly. In the preparation stage, you try to understand what it is, but you don't know exactly. Here in this stage, I will present my problem the way how I see it, and you will present your problem the way how you see it. In this stage, it is preferable, nobody's not going to interrupt people in the middle. Just listen what they want to say. You're just trying to prove whatever you thought their problem is in preparation stage. Here you have a chance to hear from those people, from their mouths, what actually is their problem is. So what you're trying to do here is just listen what these people have to say and give them opportunity. And it's important to take a note during this period. If you don't understand something that they're saying, just write it down. If you have a question, you have anything, just write it down and then wait to the third stage to clarify and ask questions. But right now, it is very important that you give that advantage to that person to speak. The reason that you don't have to interrupt in the middle is if you start to interrupt every second because you didn't understand, the conversation shifts, usually, because he tries to answer that question and things shift and he didn't say what he wanted to say. So it just like, it needs some patience to say. Just hear them, let's hear you, write down all the question you have, and then you come to the third stage, which is clarification of goal. Now you know exactly what they say, you should clarify what they're saying, what's the things you didn't understand, the terminology, it could be the root of the problem, it could be whatever the situation down there. Here, after you hear them, you ask a question. What do you mean by this? How things are going, and this and that. You discuss about it stuff here and try to have the full picture of what exactly the problem is. Because you have to understand after this stage what exactly they're talking about. You don't have to agree here. It's not about agreement here. Here is like trying to understand what is the problem is. Because usually a lot of discussions are going wrong because people assume they know what's going on. They don't want to ask because who cares? And then they end up getting to a wrong conclusion that based on their assumption, which is not truthful as the other party. So you have to get the true picture. In this stage, you have more time to hear and to listen and to ask any question that you didn't understand throughout that process and get the full picture of what is the problem is. So, and then now in the fourth stage, you come to negotiate. Now the first time you come to negotiate, up till this point, you didn't come to negotiate at all. This is the fourth stage that you're negotiating because now you know what's going on. You know what the problem is. You have like an exact idea of why this argument appears in any stage. In business, it could be in community problem, it could be in a personal level, it could be, you know what is going on. And then here you try to understand and you try to go towards a win-win outcome. Because a lot of time when people think about negotiation, who is they sending from the organization? Okay.
Yeah. This is part of the negotiation. If you go to negotiate,
yeah,
this means you come with your idea, and someone else has his idea,
yeah,
and each of you need to convince someone who is discussing with. Because you can't come and say that I don't want to give or to give up, because in negotiation you give and you take.
okay.
So when you let someone giving you all his ideas, definitely you will be convinced for what he is telling you. Because in his preparation, he prepared to convince you. So, but when you have a point,
Okay.
I think you should tell him, Judah, we are at this point, but as you are saying this and that, mine was to do this. So between the interaction, you can deviate his ideas to do not give you something, but convince him to give you something. So this was just to know how you are saying, you let someone telling you what he has, so that you can give your idea after. Because if you let him give you all things he has or she has, she will ending by convincing you, because that was his starting point in a negotiation. But once you hear you can convince him at a certain point, I think it is where negotiation will come and say, no, you are saying we're not going to Jerusalem, but the idea was to go to Jerusalem tomorrow because A, B, C, D. And we say, no, it will be raining because A, B, C. So at the point we arrive where we convince you, even if it will be raining, we can take some umbrella, go take taxi, and go there. But you came with the idea of telling me tomorrow because it will rain, we will not go to Jerusalem. If I let you talking up to the end, I will not have to argue to convince you. But once I hear that I can give you my idea in between what you are saying, I should convince you and negotiate better to go to Jerusalem.
Okay. Let me give a little bit of what I'm trying to say in the preparation, in the discussion stage. The discussion stage is basically non-negotiating. Now we're in negotiating, we can't talk about it. But when you come into a disagreement, let's create any sort of disagreement, okay? You need a specific stake. You want to take a 30% of some company, okay? And I want you to take only 20%, okay? But because of that, our deal that we're trying to make is not happening. So this is a case scenario. I'm just creating a story, okay? Now, when you come into negotiation, what I'm trying to say is you have certain reasons why you don't need 30%. You don't need 20%. I have my own reason why I don't want to give you 30%, okay? So when you prepare yourself in this small example, what you try to do is try to understand what is my reasoning behind not to give you 30%. Okay, that is the preparation stage. Try to understand. And since that is a big business, that's a business, there will be different stakeholders in this business, and you try to understand who are there, who is this people, who is very important, who is not. That is the preparation you're trying to do. And in the discussion period, when you come, you will hear the actual reason. You assume why I don't want to give you 30%. That is your assumption in the preparation stage. But when we come to discussion, I'm telling you the reasoning why I don't want you to have that. Okay? It's not only one reason. I will give you certain reasons. It's like a lot of reasons why I don't want these things to happen. Okay? And that is right now, when I told you this information, you already have a clear idea of what is the problem is. Before that, you don't have an idea. Now, after you have this clear idea why I don't want to give you 30%, and then you will discuss with me about the negotiation. Say like, okay, we can be creative there. Probably what I'm more worried about is because you don't put enough money into this project, or I don't know what. And then you see all this reasoning, and then you come up with oh, okay, I didn't know about this as a problem. So in this stage, in negotiation stage, we try to discuss this specific problems and then try to find a solution from there. But in the discussion part, it is more about clarifying and understanding with my guess of what could be the problem, and then what actually is the problem from the person that I'm negotiating in front of it. That make sense?
Yeah, but sometimes during the negotiation,
Yeah.
negotiators know the perception of their colleagues. I came to see you, I know you're not giving me 30% because you do not need to be the majority shareholder, but I need to be majority shareholder. I know that you give me 100 reasons, and my idea is to try to deviate your reasons
Yeah.
and get the 30%. So I come with in mind, well prepared that I will convince you to give me the 30%. I know that you tell me you didn't bring shares, you have the loans, you have the A, B, C, D, but I try to show you even if I have the loans, even if I don't have a lot of shares, I have a lot of knowledge, I have a lot of A, B, C, D, so that I convince you to have those 30%.
Sometimes people know. Sometimes people know exactly what's going on, but not most of the time. It's impossible to know what exactly other party is thinking unless you hear directly from those people.
You assume.
Usually, I don't know. That's how it works. Like it's very you can like guess and get very close to what they're thinking about based on the data that you're searching. That's true. But you're not gonna know exactly what is going on unless you communicate that person directly and learn from them what it is. And then sometimes you get it like really close with what you think is the problem is actually the problem. So that makes things more easier. Sometimes it gets your expectation is here and then what actually they're thinking is there. So that makes things more complicated and difficult. You know what I mean? It depends on the situation. You're right, but like it's not all the negotiation index that way. But that really happens. That's true. So here you come and try to negotiate to win-win outcomes. How do you get into win-win outcomes? When you get into the elements of negotiation, we will talk more about like how to make it to a win-win outcome as much as we can. Okay? And then afterwards, once you negotiate, this stage is just to make an agreement. An agreement is like having a document, signing something, and coming into something that is like visible, and then you can see it, and then can implement it afterward. So this is the stage, and then the final stage is implementing of a course of action. Once now you have an agreement, what you're gonna do is implement it. What happened? So simple, very easy. Start from the preparation. It comes to implementation. This is sixth stage of negotiation that is used in the world. It's not gonna. This is supposed not to be like in the same day or in one week or something. It's probably gonna take more, but this is usually the sixth stage of negotiation in any stage. Okay. But what if we fail? It's not like we always go this smoothly as I described it in half an hour. It's like, oh, you start here, you do this, you do that. If you do this, all things will be okay, and you're gonna get it. That's not how it goes. There's usually there's a failure. And the failures are not happening only it's not happening in the first stage or in the last stage. It can happen in all stages, in different stages, a failure can happen. So usually in any stage, it doesn't matter which stage, if you see conversation goes difficult, stop that conversation over there and try to reschedule a meeting. Because most of the time when people try to do a negotiation, what they do is they keep talking and people get very mad, people get very angry, and then it can waste your time, and also it will waste your working relationship with the other party. So when you see things are getting intense, try to stop that there and then try to reschedule it. If you see things are not really going anywhere because things the issue that you're discussing is very difficult to manage, the good part is to have a mediator. Try to have a mediator and then bring that mediator into that negotiation and go with it. But don't start to argue and have that like temper and then have destroy the relationship that you might gonna have with that person. Even if you don't agree with this specific subject, you need that person in the future work because you don't know when you need that person. So don't get into that stage of like you don't have any more patience for that person. If you feel that way, just stop and then reschedule the meeting. So this is what it is. So let's talk about the three components of negotiation. The first one I want to talk about is attitude. So negotiation is not about you. A lot of time people think about like how good I am, how I can speak, how I can get everything from a person or an individual, or it's not about an ego. when you go to negotiate, think about the family stage, okay? You go in, you husband and wife, there's something happening with the neighbor, you go into negotiate with that person. You're representing your family, your wife, your kids, everything that you're doing is impacting your family in a certain way, okay? So it's not about how much you can get something out there. It's more about like whatever you're representing, it's an organization, a family, and anything, how you can do the best out for these peoples by controlling your emotion and your personality and everything that brings your personality out there. So if you were assigned to be a negotiator to your organization, you should really, really, really work in your personality first. Because we all have a very different personalities. We get very much sometimes, we kind of people who's like getting to hit everyone every time. There's all sorts of personalities that will really impact the overall negotiation. And it's very important to work in your personality. Because negotiation is not about you. Negotiation is about whatever you represent there. And if you ruin that working relationship, you will ruin the entire thing that in the future also, because once the trust is broken between people, it's difficult to repair it. So you have to think about that very much. The second component of negotiation is knowledge. You really, really need to know everything about that subject, about the problem, about the community you're dealing. You want to do something in northern part of Ethiopia, you have to understand who's living there, what kind of language these people are speaking, who's the local government, what is the local government interest, who are you representing to? Is there anything that happened in the past that broke the relationship between your company and these people living down there? There's a lot of questions you have to know. You're not going to jump in and then do it tomorrow. You should sit down and spend more time in learning what is going on behind this whole situation. And then learn and know about the subject in the area and everything that is necessary to that negotiation to happen. Okay? So it's very, very important you do your homework before you get into that table of negotiation. And the third one, the third component is interpersonal skill. Some people born with something. Some people born to be a good musician. Some people born to be I don't know, an athlete. Some people born with that thing. Even if you're born with that, people work still to be a professional on that some specific aspect. If you're not born with something, you still can learn to be a better person. And then one of the most important interpersonal skills you need in negotiation is the first one is listening. A lot of people doesn't have a patience to listen as a people. It's like, you know, people like stop you in the middle, say like, oh, I already get what you say. But like, you didn't get it. It's just like, give that opportunity for the other person to speak up to the end and express their feelings, because you will learn something out of whatever the people are gonna say. And include those people. And if you're not a good listener, the first big thing that you have to learn in interpersonal skill is listening. Because the more you listen, the more you learn about something, the more you get. You're not going to lose anything. You will learn more about it. So you have to do that. The other thing is reducing misunderstanding. It's a cultural thing. A lot of people don't like asking questions. Okay? I'm not a native English speaker. So when I lived in America, Native Americans are speaking to me very fast. Everybody has his own accent from the region they come from. And sometimes I don't get the key word and I lost the whole sentence. And I can pretend saying like, oh, okay, I got it, and then answer the wrong answer. Or I can ask like, what does this mean? Like, what does this specific word mean? Because whenever I ask and clarify from those people, it sounds like I don't, like, some people is like taking it as a pride, like they don't want to ask anything because they want to always be like this person who knows everything. If you have that kind of thing, just you have to drop it, especially when you get into negotiation. If you don't know, it is better to ask a question and learn about it and get the actual data instead of misunderstanding it and base your decision in that wrong information. Because a lot of times that happens, it sounds very simple when you hear it, but that happens a lot in the real life. So you should really be a kind of person who is willing to ask questions and to receive answers for things. If you don't understand, it is okay to ask. One thing that in Israeli culture is in Israel, people are okay to ask questions. Also, people are okay to correct you in many ways, in language and anything in Israeli community. People are continuously doing that. And it's a good thing because that way you can reduce a misunderstanding. And it's very, very important. The other thing is building a strong working relationship. You know, like you don't like all the time the people working with you or in any projects, in any works, in anything, but you don't have to like the person. It's not a personal relationship, it's a working relationship. And keeping your working relationship with everyone in your organization or in any negotiation table also very important because you will need these people in the future. You're launching a certain project right now that could happen or not happen because of a lot of circumstances, but you're gonna try to do another thing next year. You're gonna try to do another stuff with them. You never know when you will gonna meet these people and when you're gonna need these people. So it's very, very important to keep that working relationship. You don't have to go and get a beer always. That's not the thing. Here, you always have, although you don't agree in every aspect, you still have to build and to keep that relationship very much. And the other thing is decision making. You have to be a good decision maker. There's a lot of tools out there to learn. You have to be a good risk taker, but also you have to understand why you are taking the risk and how that impacts you, your decision, and all sorts of things. So just like life is a continuous learning process, and in a negotiation itself, it is very important because you're actually discussing the matters that will impact you, your community, your company, and in large. It goes on and on. So you should really be a good decision maker. So as I said, questioning, clarifying is very, very important. You have to ask a question. You don't have to be quiet. Like if you don't get something, you should go and ask people instead of like assuming that you understand what is going on. In questioning, there's two kinds of questioning. That's like a closed-ended questions and open-ended questions that is practiced a lot. The closed-ended question is whenever you have something, just simple thing that you want to try to clarify, ask that kind of question. Did you travel by car today? I was like, yes, I did. No, I didn't. This is like, is this a 1948? You just say, yes, it is. Or no, it isn't. A very simple one. And then try to ask open-ended question when you need more information. If you ask me, what was the traffic look like this morning? I can say like, oh my God, I was from Tel Aviv to Haifa, and on the way something happened, and then we were 1 hour stuck in the traffic. I can speak more, and then be that person who knows how to formulate your question, because not everybody knows how to formulate a question. Not everybody knows how to speak in front of the people. Not everybody knows a lot of information. So try to learn your strengths and weakness and try to work in your weakness. Sometimes you're a good you're a good person to ask questions, but you're not a good person in listening. So that will impact the overall negotiation. If you're a good person and knows everything, that's perfect, but there's a lot of things that you have to work in order to be that person. Yeah.
Ask it. No, question would be just for clarification.
Yes.
Question. Two types of question. Closed question, open question.
Yeah.
But what is the side effect of leading questions? Leading questions. You may ask sometimes a leading question so that the person will be very, very ready. He will not be challenged.
So the thing is, when you ask a question, don't try to cross-examine a person. If you're doing question to cross-examine a person, that will lead the negotiation process itself into a wrong direction, because nobody don't want to be like cross-examined. So you will get impacted. When you ask a question, do it for clarification purpose only. Okay? Do it to understand if you didn't understand what's going on. If you want to need more information. That is the reason, like that's exactly the reason I put it here, because like everybody knows how to ask a question. This is not something that needs a slide. But the reason I put it here is some people assume they know exactly how to ask a question, but when they're actually doing it in practice, they try to do it, cross-examine somebody, and then they ruin the relationship. So that is what you don't need there. You should know how to formulate your question in order to clarify things, not to cross-examine somebody, because that will offend the person. So just learn that experience. It's just a matter of practice. People practice something, they'll be good at it. If you're not practicing something, when you're actually in the negotiation stage, you will ruin the entire negotiation because you assume you know, and then you go there, and then you're not actually doing it right. So this is important to do. So let's talk about 7 elements of negotiation. This is a 7 elements developed at Harvard Negotiation Project in Harvard Law School. Talk about interest, okay? Interest is something that people always confuse it with position. Interest and position are 2 different things. When you come into position, it is easy to, your position leads people to disagreement. It's open to argument than a solution. When you understand the exact interest of what a person is trying to do, that will lead you more into a discussion. Let's try to understand what it means by giving you an example, okay? Let's say, I want a car, okay? I want a car. I said I'm not married, but for my wife, I said I want a car, okay? What do you think? Is this a position or is this an interest? Interest, you say?
Position.
Position? Okay, you guys divided. Good, position, but what?
If I say I like to drive, then it's interest.
Because you say you want your position.
You're right, absolutely you're right. This is position, this is not interest, but I need more description. Just describe it for the people, like why is this position?
I think if you go behind the position, it is not this position, it is interest, because you have to check what is the functionality of the car. By saying I need a car, what is the meaning about or what is your interest to have a car?
Perfect. That is the thing. I will clarify again what he says exactly. So when I say I want a car, that's my position, okay? And it could be interpreted in 2 different ways, okay? My wife, I go to in the evening and then suddenly told her I want a car, okay? And then she's like, no, you know that we don't have money. You know that we have these things to deal with, and how are you gonna come up with this idea? It will gonna put you into this disagreement more, the position aspect of it. Let's think about interest. Interest is, I'll define it and then you will understand it. Interest is, position is why you want something. That is in position. Interest is why you want what you want. That makes sense? The position is about what, the interest is about why. So when you know about why, it matters a lot than what you want. Let me do the same example to clarify this in the situation. I want a car is a position that could be leading us, as I said, to a lot of disagreement. But if I say, I want a car because I got a job that requires a car that will pay double to the price that I'm getting from this job right now, it would be more acceptable to my wife than I said, I want a car because all my friends have a car, I don't have a car, so I need a car. These two interests can lead into 2 different conclusions when you are in conversation with some other person. So understanding the interest, not the position, is important when you are doing negotiation because of this reason. Is that clear? The why part, you have to understand why that is, not only what it is. Why is that thing is important? What is the reasons behind it? Why people want it? Because sometimes people really want it. People really want it. They don't want this project here because this is their ancestral land and they don't want anything to be digged there. But you say like, oh, we're bringing your water here, down here in some part of the world. You should say, okay, you should be happy. We're trying to help you here. But you don't understand why they don't want us there. And that matters for these people. That's something that is really not the big deal for you. So understanding the interest is very much important, very much. Not only the position, because people are like really confusing these 2 things all the time when they do negotiation. So there's 2 things that you have to ask yourself always when you think about interest. What is my interest? First of all, when you go to the negotiation table, you have to understand what is your interest. Not only your position, but what is your interest. It's a why part, okay? The second thing is what is the other party's interest. If you understand why they need it, you can understand how much they will really fight for that. Okay? I think we can do one of the examples. What do you think about I want him to pay me? Is that a position? Is that an interest?
Position.
Cool. You already got the point, so we don't need this side. The second element in negotiation that developed in Harvard is the options. The second thing is options is something you come with when you come to the negotiation table. That means it's not alternative. Alternative is a very different story. We'll have a slide about it. Option is you come into negotiation with certain things that you might get asked, what you might get agree with. That means you have like, I will agree in this certain aspect of the negotiation, this outcome. If not, I will agree with this outcome. You have 2, 3 outcomes that you are okay with. Like you have the first one if something is, this is the best option that I want to take if these things happen, because negotiation is not about losing. Negotiation is about winning, but as much as you can, making it a win-win situation, not only win-lose, because somebody, every side have to get something. But here is like you have certain aspects, certain options you come up with, and then you should sit down and then develop these options before you come into negotiation table, before you come in the preparation stage. You say, I want, this is the best one, this is the other one, this is the third one I want, and then you should be that person coming up with options. Otherwise, if you are only have one option, the likelihood of getting into the agreement is less, because it's very difficult to fit all your interest in one position only. So a question you have to ask yourself, and it's important and that leads you into win-win outcomes that we discussed about, is what things do we care relatively less about and the other party value high? What does that mean? Okay, there is certain reasons that when you do the preparation stage and the discussion stage and the clarification stage, you already have like this big picture of understanding what is the problems are, and then which points are not agreeable and which problems are creating a problem with you. And when you learn more about them and then give them that opportunity to give you the whole information you need, you sit down with your team and then sort it out which things are very important for you, which things are very important for them, and then which things are very less important to you but very important for them. So when you do the actual agreement, what you're going to do is like literally like a game. You're going to switch. You're going to like do a puzzle kind of thing. It is very easy. If you're doing things in order, I think a lot of time people are not doing things in order, so if you're just doing whatever you think about, this is to a chaos. But if you do it in order, it is more easier because you know what all those things. You can list it out. This is literally you can list it out, and then you try to negotiate, and that will lead you into a win-win outcome. Because it's not always like everything you care very much about is also something that other parties care that much about. So, but if you clarify and do that through homework very well, you can switch it out. Okay? And always you can ask yourself, can we offer other party new choice? On the way when you hear more about them, when you clarify questions and you get something, add more and more options that you can give, because that will lead more of the negotiation to work out. Okay? Now, yeah.
In a negotiation, I think the position is to have my position first will come to win better than someone we are dealing. And in the worst situation will be or the normal will be the win-win, and the worst will be to lose for me. I should go there with 3 positions. The ones I win, the negotiation. Because it is a negotiation, the starting point is to get something from someone else. So if I should get a lot from him or from her, that my negotiation will be, I will be a well negotiator.
That's where we don't disagree, we don't agree, but I will explain why.
Yeah. So negotiation doesn't always is win-win, but I come to get something from you. That's why I'm negotiating with you.
That is exactly what I did. My first year of university, I went down, they gave me a case study, did it, read that, I don't know, they assigned me with a girl, and then we start to do negotiation, and I get an instruction, it says like, let's win. Like,
Yes.
as much as you can win, that's the whole point of negotiation, you need to win. And I was like, and that poor girl is not that much knowing how to speak very well, and I was okay on speaking, and then I want everything from her, and then I submitted to the professor. And I remember what the professor says all the time, he gave me 0 for that grade. And I was like, what's wrong with you?
I was good.
I want everything. That's the negotiation. It's like, that's the whole point of negotiation. And he said that that's exactly the wrong thing, the wrong assumption that people have. Negotiation is not about to be winning everything from the other side. Negotiation is about building a good relationship with the other party. And the way how you build a good relationship with the other party is when those people feel fair treatment. And then when those people also feel they gain something. I said it before, you will continue to do a lot of projects with these people. Somebody after you also representing your organization will come after 10 years to do something. If you left a bad footprint there in this situation, nobody's not going to trust you and do work with you. It's not about like filling people. It is about, of course it is about winning something, but it's not about winning too much. It is about to find out a way to balance the needs of those two parties. And that is where a lot of people are missing it, because they assume it is about like winning as much as you can. That is not negotiation. That is forcing people, like, or tricking people. You can trick people and then you can force them or get something out of them. Well, you don't need negotiation. If you need negotiation, actually, that means you're trying to resolve it in a good way, around a table. That's a very different story. Do you get what I'm trying to say? If you get everything from some person, why should I need to negotiate in front of you?
Not getting everything, but get what you are looking for from that person.
What is that?
Get what you are looking from that
Yeah.
person.
But not by hurting other people.
Not taking everything,
Yeah.
but if you should take more than you can. Okay.
The good way of negotiating is, as I told you, if you follow the whole story, and if you can like play that puzzle and then give them what they need and they take what you want, nobody's gonna get hurt in this process. And it is easy to do it in that way. If you take everything from the other negotiating party, these people lose, you win. It's like a football match. But like, negotiation is not about it's not a football match. Negotiation is a way how you try to settle a difference in a good way. This is like the definition that we begin this lecture is about like negotiation is the way how you settle a difference on the way that will benefit both parties. It's not in a way hurt somebody else. Because if nobody wants to lose. It's not about a winning, losing game at all, negotiation. And that is the perception outside. But that is not what it is. Negotiation is not about losing or winning, but negotiation is about settling the difference in a good way. Does that make sense? Okay. So now we go to alternative, but this is a good section that you asked me the question because I will talk about alternative. But you're not going to give up everything. There is the thing that I want to introduce you is a thing called BANTA. BANTA means a best alternative to negotiation agreement. It is like, this is an academic term, but I want to say it in a very simple form. It is like your red line. Okay? There is, when you set your options, my preferable option is this one, number 1, and I can go with number 2, I can go to number 3, but you set the red line, the BANTA. Under this one, I'm not going to take it because there is another alternative better than this. So I'm not going to go there, okay? So you set where is your red line is. You're not going to, as either party, doesn't matter which party it is, nobody don't want to lose. So they will set up, when they come to professional negotiations, they will set up a red line. This is the point. I can go up to this point, but not down to this. If it's down to this, it's preferable not to have an agreement. That is an alternative. But an option is things that you're okay with in different level. So this is the whole thing. Like when you prepare yourself to negotiation, you come with the options. You also set your like red line, which is the banta, and then you will see yourself like where you're standing. Like for instance, in this case, the question you have to ask yourself is, you have to ask where is my red line, which is where is my banta is, and also you have to ask what is their banta. The reason you ask what is their red line is because you don't have to offer them something below their red line. If you're offering them something below their red line, they're not going to accept it. Because that is their red line. Everybody, nobody's not a fool when they come to negotiation table. Everybody tries to get out something out of that negotiation. So if you're offering them below this banta, which is the red line, they will say no, because it's not gonna be like useful for them also. So understanding what could be their banta and setting up your banta is very important, because you will play only in something above that. And then of course what you want is basically always to get better than that, always. But you should say that it's like, especially in organization level, it's not something that individual will decide. It's a board, the people will sit down and then discuss about what is the needs and then what is the limits, and this is a back and forth process. You come and go with it. Okay. So the other thing is, the reason that I say it is like it's not a win-lose situation negotiation is because of the legitimacy. One of the elements of negotiation that is developed in Harvard is legitimacy. And legitimacy is, are those parties are feeling treated fairly? You should ask that question to yourself to see if people are feeling okay with the conversation. Sometimes people do a sort of negotiation, but they're kind of forcing people to get into that point anyways. So it was like all about the picture and all about like the things like, oh, these parties are negotiating, not actually doing this negotiation. This is a different story. But if you're actually doing a real negotiation, the reason you're doing it is because to satisfy everyone who's taking part in that negotiation to be okay or happy with the outcome. Okay? So it is very important that that people who participating in the negotiation are okay with the outcome. If they're feeling afterward they're fooled, or if they're feeling afterward a lot of taken from them or something, that will ruin your relationship. And relationship is everything in the world. Your connection and relationship is very, very important aspect that you have to keep it all the time. So legitimacy is very important. The other part is, the other element is commitment. Okay? The other element is commitment. So when you get into argument, you have to understand the argument you're planning should be planned first of all, it should be realistic, and it will be operational. It's like sometimes people come and then like kind of doing an argument and says, okay, get very excited and then write down on paper things that is not actually implicable when you go into the field. So when you do negotiation, you should be very careful what is you're signing in. Because sometimes some of the arguments, a lot of arguments are made in the world, and then when you go down to the ground and see if that agreement is actually implemented, it is not feasible at all to do it because it is too complicated sometimes. Sometimes it's more unrealistic at all. So when you write down this agreement, when you draft it, you should be very careful. First of all, it should be planned. Where these things are going to start to be implemented, who will do what, when, how. All these questions must be answered in that process. If you're just agreeing and then signing some fancy document and put it into your locker, the whole negotiation is not useful at all. But it is very, very important when you get into the commitment section to well plan your agreement and also check that is realistic, like something that could be like possible to implement it afterward. Okay? So questions you have to ask in this one, and very important one, is what authority to commitment do you have? You could be a manager of some certain organization, but you should know yourself. Like, you can't promise something that you're not authorized to promise. So you should learn about who you are in that process, or you have to tell your boss, or that boss have to tell the other boss. You should really clarify who you are and what is your power in the decision making in that process. So don't promise something you can't do, because that will also bring relationship in. It's important to keep relationship. Either you're not agreeing or agreeing. Okay? Another thing, the other element is communication. When we talk about communication, it's both about the message that is transferred and also the medium that you're transferring that message. Okay? The message that is transferred is what you're talking about, the whole information. And sometimes there's a language barrier, especially workers in Africa and South America, when there's a lot of cultures and a lot of language and everywhere, and you're working in the South and the North, far away from where you know, you should really understand and learn with which community you're dealing with. What is the means of communication there? Sometimes internet is not working in some portion of the country you're trying to communicate with. So how are you going to deal with that when you're doing that project or that argument? Because you should really be understanding how communication must be a flow between both parties. It's not going to be one-sided, but it should be like both-sided. Everyone have to say something. But it is very important that you know and control the means of communication and also the quality of the message as transferred. Okay? Of course, listening is very important, as I said, and try to understand the other side point of view. There's no, like, some people is like don't want it, like, it is important, even if that you don't agree with the other side, it is important always you listen to those people. You don't have to agree. You should give them the opportunity to speak for themselves. Don't assume that you know what their problem is, because you're not them. So you should be really listening to these people and their needs when you're trying to do, especially as in your level as a manager and you're dealing with like a lot of people, you should listen and understand everybody as much as you can. And again, the other element that is relationship. Relationship is very important, as I said it before. It doesn't matter you agree with the specific negotiation or not, your relationship with that organization will keep. It could be in a personal level also. It's like your relationship with other people should continue, and you never know when you need them, how you need them, and so on and so forth. So it is very important to keep your work relationship. Of course, do not trust blindly. That's not the suggestion here. You should trust based on the data that you have, but try to search a way to show your trustworthiness in this conversation. Because if there is no trust between two parties, the communication, everything will fail, because why should I have to argue with you in anything if I'm not trusting you at all from the beginning? So it is very important to keep the relationship. It's like a fragile thing is a relationship, because a relationship can be like broken at any point, especially when the trust is mixed. If somebody's not trusting somebody, that will be like it. So the question you have to ask is, what is the quality of working relationship do you have? Do you trust that person? You always have to ask yourself, like sometimes people, you don't trust those people because whatever they're saying is not true to you. There's a lot of reasons you don't trust, but you have to ask yourself why. Why I don't trust this person? Because if you know why, you're probably not going to continue that negotiation. You're probably going to be sad in some way. But it is very important that you ask that question. And also, do we want to work with that party next time or not? And if not, why? Because you have probably some bad experience with that party. So you have to manage and learn that. We finish with the principles. A guideline principle, a general one, is it's very important to respect people. It doesn't matter which level you are. It doesn't matter you're a manager, you're a director, you're like, you have to respect the woman in the field, you have to respect the farmers, people who are not educated. There's a lot of people, the stakeholders who get into your projects, the project you're trying to launch. It is very important to give that respect, that dignity of people, because they're human beings, first of all. Second of all, these people knows a lot of things that you don't know, actually, in a local level, and what they know, their culture, in their area. This is like a river of knowledge that you have out of these people, and you have to listen to them and then integrate them in the communication itself. It is very, very important. So let's talk about feeling a little bit. You as a person, now we're done from negotiation, but you as an individual, your behavior, your emotion will impact and change the way how conversations are done. Okay? So let's try to discuss about identifying feeling. It's not about the question is not here to decide to feel or not to feel. We're human. You feel sad, you feel mad, you feel happy, depends upon the situation. We have that feelings. The question is not to feel. The question is how to manage your feeling and control yourself before you make another damage. Okay? So when you learn more how to manage your personal behavior, your feeling, you will benefit. When you listen to people, you get more information about that. If you're that kind of person who get very mad when somebody says something, just go out. Don't get involved into something physical with that guy. Because it is very important to identify your weakness, because we all have weakness in certain aspects. First of all, try to figure out what is your weakness is. What is the thing you have to work into your personality, and then what is the solution to avoid that? It is very important that you ask yourself honestly that question, because I don't think anybody's perfect. So you have to ask that question. So the problem with the feeling is sometimes feeling translates into judgment. And that is the problem of the feeling. What does that mean? A lot of times in America, I'll give you some examples, real examples that happened in the world. There is a guy who started to shoot women because he filmed a video afterward, and he put that video out. And the reasoning was nobody wanted to date him. And this is like a teenager that no girl wanted to date him. And then that feeling that nobody wanted to date him creates a feeling that is anger. And then the anger is translated into people that he knows. Every girl in the world is a problem for that, because they don't want to date him. He didn't ask himself why girls don't want to date him. Probably there's he don't talk to them very well. Probably he's not, I don't know. There's a lot of reasons could be that girls don't want to talk to that individual. But he's not trying to learn and understand why the reason from his side, but he translates that feeling of anger in a bad way. And what he did is he went out and started to shoot people. And then I don't know how many people he killed. This is a real story that happened. And a lot of things in America, especially the shootings in the school, you guys hear a lot about it, the shooting in America. A lot of it happened because of this judgment. This is a problem. A lot of kids in America, they say you're a loser, and this kids are don't have that much friends, and this and that, and then that anger translated into something, and then people go out and do something very large. They kill everybody because of certain things. That judgment translated into something that will hurt a lot of people. So you should try to ask yourself, I feel ignored in this specific example. This is what this woman think about. It can be you start to feel about loneliness, fear, anger. That is the kind of different kinds of feeling you might gonna feel. And then don't judge it directly oh, it's because of my friends, nobody want to invite me. It's because of my family, they don't want to include me. But try to ask yourself, what should I could improve, and what could be my side? What is the problem that could be that makes people not to be closer to me? So don't just directly make a judgment, but also ask yourself a question, why could it be? Because it's very important. Otherwise, if you misunderstood and misjudge it, it could be a problem. It could be a problem for a lot of people, not only you around. So it is very important. So there is a lot of harmful,
Other than doing the introspection, like asking yourself, because you are angry and you already settled on a position, like maybe it's because of me. So sometimes it's okay to speak to the other person and try and find out why is it that they don't like it. Approach them, ask them, is there something that you see in me that is not right? Isn't it that a better way? Because if you're angry and you've already settled on a position, it's very difficult for you to sit back and introspect. Maybe that's why it translates into violence. Most of these people sit alone, and then when they're sitting alone, they keep processing, and then they still think the problem is with them. So maybe sometimes it's good to walk out, speak to somebody, establish what the problem is with you.
Exactly. Exactly. I agree with you. Like, there's a lot of methods to deal with that, and instead of making that bad judgment and making more distraction to the situation. And this is one of the methods that he discussed about. It's very important because a lot of times people translate it badly and then ends up very bad because you add a problem in the problem instead of like trying to search solution to the problem. So it is very important, and I agree with you 100%. So there is like a harmful way of managing emotion that people are doing. For instance, people are denying. Okay, there's a lot of people who like refuse to accept anything is wrong. If something is wrong, something is wrong. Just accept it. You're mad? Accept it. You're mad. It's okay. But a lot of people try to refuse. Think about it in a negotiation also. Just this person representing you, go in there, try to negotiate, but you're very mad in some whatever going on in that specific negotiation. And then you're kind of person who's like punching people, and then you stand and then you're gonna punch people because you're very mad. Like, that's your personality. It doesn't matter. You're going to follow it. So some people, in this case, some people that's a bully. Okay? Those kind of people who's really actually going to fight. That is a bully. Some people is withdrawing. When people don't want to accept that they're wrong, so they just withdraw. They don't want to say like, oh, I'm sorry. I thought this is a way. I'm wrong. I will learn from it, and then let's proceed. But people don't want to say that. They're like, they always want to win. There's a kind of people who always want to win. They don't want to lose, so they don't want to hear anything. So be flexible. Like if there is something, learn from it and then move forward. Okay? And some people are hurting themselves in society, included here. But people hurting themselves. People get into addiction, all sorts of. That is a harmful way of managing your emotions. Okay? A good way of managing your emotion is you're angry, pause. Okay, pause and acknowledge that you are feeling whatever that feeling is. Say, I am angry. It's okay. It's like, I am sad. I am happy. Acknowledge whatever the feeling you have. And then think about it. Why I am angry? Why am I happy? What is the reasoning behind it? And then help yourself based on the conclusion you get. Okay? But think about it. It is good to pause first of all. Because like when you're mad, especially when you're angry, things will go more wrong if you keep having that conversation. Okay? So why conversations are getting difficult? Why things are getting difficult? This is two things that most of the time things are going difficult, especially in negotiation in any aspect of life. The first thing is when your self-esteem is threatened. Nobody will want to be threatened, personally. When you feel that is a thing, it doesn't matter what the conversation is, you always try to defend yourself. So things are going to get very rough all the time. The second one is when the issue at stake is uncertain. When the things are uncertain, there's a lot of uncertainty, and this is a very important thing to you, the conversation will get very, very intense because you don't want to lose in that conversation. So there's a certain ways of solution for difficult conversation. If you find yourself in difficult conversation, here are some of the things you should do. First of all, listen actively for a good communication. Try to listen. Even if you're very mad, still try to listen, people. As I said, don't use questions to cross-examine because that will make people very angry. Do questions to clarify things, not to cross-examine them. Paraphrase when you communicate. You just make sure it's like, did you say this? And then say it in your word. And it's important to acknowledge. Acknowledge, not the feelings of other people also. Not only your feelings, but also other people's feelings. It is very important to accept that. Speak to the impact. It is very important to speak directly to the situation. Don't go around to get into this point. If you want to say something, just say it right away. Okay? It is very important. Tell your story with clarity. Just don't add